And it is now time for the man you love to hate and you love to love. Those are my favorite kind of people. Okay? Because that means you're doing it right. The legend himself, Philly Godfather, joins us now here on the Big Stills National Football Show. How you doing, brother?
Great, Dan. Another Friday, beautiful Friday in the city of brotherly love. And, I mean, the guys hate me, but last week, if you remember, I gave out the Eagles to cover the spread. I mean, I was on them, so can't hate me that much.
Look at that, throwing money around here for everyone to make money. That's what this is about here. You see, the Godfather's here to try to make all you Stonads money, but you don't get it here. All right. Hey, before I get going, what'd you make of that there? I mean, if you're the Rams and you lose to the Cowboys on Sunday, we'll get to all the games. You got a 32-year-old defensive tackle. You got to start building some equity to build your football team. Would you contemplate maybe sending him to Pittsburgh or anywhere to try to get some draft capital? Because the Rams, they're not 2 players away going to the Super Bowl.
No, that's a lot of money, Dan. You got to get rid of them. I mean, I bet him at the beginning of the season to go under 7.5 season win totals. I knew they had some issues on that team, banged up. And when you're paying out that much money, I'm hoping they send them to the Cowboys. That would be nice, but that's not going to happen. They're probably going to send them to the AFC side. But yeah, you definitely got to find a way to get rid of that money on the bank.
All right, Eagles versus Commanders. How do you see this thing playing out?
I mean, the line opened up 6. It's up to 7. It's moved to full point. There's some sharp money on the Eagles laying 6 here. But if you guys remember last time out, I mean, they were laying double digits, and they almost lost the game outright. If Rivera doesn't, if he goes for it for 2, when they score that touchdown at the end, instead of getting into overtime and giving the Eagles the ball back, I mean, that was a brain cramp. But I think this time the Eagles, I think they outperformed the market. They're looking a little stronger. They're starting to gel better. It was a clean win against Miami. It was a clean victory, even though they turned the ball over twice. And when you lose a turnover battle 2-1, you usually don't win the game 66% of the time. And you definitely don't cover the spread closer to 70% of the time. So it was a clean win. It was a good victory. I know they were getting all the calls and the refs. I mean, it was just a little lopsided with the penalties, and that helped them out. But it was a big win for the Eagles.
Yeah, Tim Donaghy was really proud of the officiating crew that was there at Lincoln Financial. Hey, speaking of that with Miami, we'll get to their game here in a minute. Because they got blasted by Buffalo and the way they got handled by Philly, are you a little less on their game to be a Super Bowl contender until they can prove they can beat one of the elite teams?
No, I feel better about that team. They were missing a bunch of key bodies playing against the Eagles.
Plus, Ramsey's back this week.
Ramsey's coming back. And if you remember, I mean, Tyreek Hill dropped that touchdown pass and going into the end zone. Tua throws that pick into the end zone. That game could have played out a lot differently, and all the calls went against them. I actually think after watching that game, they're better than I thought they were. I think the Eagles are a little bit more physical than that team, but when they get their guys back on the offensive line, when they get Jalen Ramsey back, and if they don't, drop the ball or throw some picks in the end zone, it's going to be a different story come playoff time.
What do you make of the story with Hurts' knee?
I mean,
get this. He wears a knee brace. Sirianni and Hurts address it all week. They don't put him on any injury list, but they list it. And then if you look at the newspaper today, the Inquirer, Hurts expected to play Monday. Yeah. Did anyone really ask the question if he was going to play or not?
Yeah, he's a tough guy. I would be very careful because, it might not be that bad of an injury, but as you know, when you overcompensate a little bit, then something else gets banged up on the football field. So they got to be real careful with Hurts and running those 4th down plays. And he's underneath all that body weight. They got to be careful with him, man. They got to be real careful.
You think he's getting hurt on that push tush, and that's why his knee hurts?
It could be. I mean, it could be a number of things, but that's.
I never thought about it till now. That
think about how much weight. Think about how much weight.
That's where he's getting hurt.
I know he can squat 600, but he's got like 1,000 pounds on him every time he goes for it on fourth and inches, 4th and 1. It's a lot of weight on your body, a lot of wear and tear.
Rams, Cowboys, your boys in Arlington. How do you see this one?
It's a lot of points. Opened up 5.5. It's up to 6.5. I would need at least 7 points to take the Rams here, but I like the Cowboys. I laid 6 on the Cowboys coming off of that bye week. I think they're a lot healthier than they were. And I think it's time for them to flex a little bit as the Eagles' schedule gets a lot tougher, after the Commanders. So I think the Cowboys win the game. I think they cover the spread convincingly here.
The Cowboys are in line to potentially get Derrick Henry.
I mean, it'd be a big pickup, especially in the fourth quarter, holding on to leads. When you're running downhill with that monster back there, he's tough to bring down, and it'll slow the pace down a little bit for that team. A lot of 3 and outs, so again this year, which was supposed to change, but that would be a major pickup for him.
One of these turd games here, but I wonder how you bet these and how you look at these, especially what Minnesota did on Monday night. Minnesota at Green Bay, used to be an old NFC Central Division type ball game. It's a North game now. But Kirk Cousins had the game of his life on that Monday night game against the Niners. I mean, talk about people losing a ton of money on that thing. He was spectacular in that. How do you look at Minnesota?
I mean, the line originally opened up with the Packers being 1-point favorite. Now it's flip-flop. Minnesota's -1.5.
Huh?
If you're looking to invest in Minnesota this week, you're buying high, right? I mean, the whole world witnessed them beat the 49ers. The betting public's going to be all over that team. I would pump my brakes a little bit. I'm not sure about betting them this week. The Packers are getting healthier again. They've been a little banged up over the last couple of weeks. They were looking really good going to that Lions game Thursday night, and then they lost a bunch of guys. A bunch of guys were banged up, and the Lions ran right through them. And ever since then, they haven't been the same. But they are getting healthier. And like I said, this is a market like any other market. So you never want to buy high on a team. You never want to buy on a team that just, like the Vikings just beat the 49ers. The whole world witnessed it, and now everyone wants to bet them this week. So you got to be careful. I didn't bet the game yet. If I do, I'll give it out on Twitter for you guys.
I mean, this is a game here, man. I mean, this is a U-Haul game. Atlanta, Tennessee. How do you look at shit like this? I mean, and put a number on it, because your Tennessee is already starting to put the white flag up. You got Atlanta figuring out if Desmond Ritter's the guy. These games here, are they attractive games because they have all these sidebars, or are they games that you kind of want to stay away from?
It depends. You're always looking for an edge. If I can get an edge flipping a quarter, I'll flip that quarter every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But you got a good defense with Atlanta going up against 2 weak backup quarterbacks. Who is it? Will Levis, Malik Willis for the Titans. So, I'm leaning towards the Falcons here. If you get them at anything under a field goal, I think it's the right side. You got basically 2 teams heading in 2 different directions. Tennessee's lost 3 over the last 4. Atlanta's won 2 of the last 3. It's tough, investing any money on a team with 2 bad backup quarterbacks when you got a Falcons team that still ranks in the top 5 in a lot of defensive metrics. And Desmond Ridder, he's not Roger Staubach, but at least he's better than what the Titans have,
You agree that New Orleans, they're playing Indianapolis and Indy, maybe one of the more disappointing teams of the year so far?
Yeah, I mean, their season win total was set at 9.5, and they've been underperforming all season. They had a chance in that Jags game Thursday night. I mean, the guy drops the ball in the end zone at the end of the game. That was one of the crazier games. Not to mention last night's finish with Buffalo and Tampa Bay and all those flags at the end. That Tampa Bay covered the spread with all those flags. They had like 3 fifth down,
and almost converted that Hail Mary.
Oh my God! Imagine that. Everybody was teasing the Bills down to pick them down to -1, 2, 3, depending on what number you got during early in the week, but. Yeah, the Saints have been underperforming this week. I think it's the right side. If you can lay 1 on the Saints here, I think they come out on top. I think they bounce back this week.
This is a tricky one here. New England versus Miami, and New England, for whatever reason, even during the Brady years, Godfather, every time they went to South Florida, they always had issues with the Dolphins. I mean. Crazy as that sounds, plus New England's coming off of a big win this past weekend. Tell me how you look at this. And Miami, obviously, more talented football team. Ramsey could play this weekend. Tyreek Hill is playing. How do you see this thing here?
I mean, Miami's made a lot of people a lot of money this year. They're 5-2 against the spread. Patriots, I mean, it's a lot of points. You're giving them 10 points.
10 points.
Miami's a tough place to play, but that's a lot of points in the NFL. You saw it last night. The Bills were laying anywhere from 9 to 10 on that closing number. And the back door is always wide open. New England's still one of the better defensive teams in the NFL. I think they can stay with the number. I like New England plus 10.
So if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Tyrod Taylor, Zach Wilson, and the game in the Meadowlands there where Jimmy Hoff is buried. Okay, so you got the Jets and the Giants in an iconic quarterback. You're supposed to get Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers. Instead, you get Zach Wilson, and I think it's Tyrod or someone else or something. I mean, holy shit. You talk about two teams. I mean, the Jets could win this, though, and they could have a decent rec. They're kind of still hanging in there.
Yeah. They're talking about Aaron Rodgers coming back maybe by playoff time, which would be crazy. This is a tough – I like Tyrod Taylor because he doesn't turn the ball over.
I do, too.
He doesn't turn the ball over. He'll take the sack. He'll throw the ball away. He'll do what he has to do. He doesn't kill you. Danny Jones kills you sometimes with some of the brain cramps he gets on the football field. You're catching 3 points in a game I think is a coin flip. The total's down to 35, so they're not expecting many points. This might be like a 16-14 type of game or like a 10-9 type of game. I kind of like the Giants here at home. Well, Giants plus 3. Put it that way. I like the Giants here.
Your boy Doug Peterson at Mike Tomlin. This is a hell of a game, I think. Yeah. One of the games of the weekend, Jags and Steelers in Pittsburgh on the shittiest stadium floor in the entire league. I mean, how do you see this thing here? And by the way, they're trending up, the Jags. They're 5-2. Look, pretty good football team right now. And I really don't know still who the Steelers are.
No, they've been one of the luckiest teams in the NFL this season. They got a negative 24-point differential, even though they're 4-2. I guess that's good coaching, right? When when you don't have the talent and your metrics aren't looking good on paper, but you're still winning, that's got to be all coaching. Mike Tomlin's done a great job up to this point in the season, but I think their luck runs out here. I think the Jags are just better, top to bottom on that roster. As long as the Jags don't turn the ball over and lose a turnover battle, they should win this game. It's only 2.5 on the road. It's always tough playing in Pittsburgh. I mean, that's never easy. Pittsburgh's a real physical team. But if the Jags just run the ball, Pittsburgh's one of the worst teams in the NFL stopping the run. I think they're giving up like 4.7 yards per carry. So if they run the ball, I think they can beat this team. Like I said, as long as they don't lose a turnover battle. I like the Jags here minus 2.5.
How much sleep do you get a week with all the shit that you have to look at? And do you have a team of guys helping you put all these stats together and you guys talk about how you're looking at the lines and what is the bet that you're going to – because I would think finding the right games with all the intel, it has to come down to really – it's almost like – and again, this is going to sound crazy, but it's almost like trying to get insider trading tips on something. You want to get some type of advantage on something, any information you could possibly get. It must be a lot of work that you guys do putting into this.
Yeah, well, what's funny, the NFL is kind of like boxing. They say styles make fights in boxing, and matchups make the games in the NFL. And, like I said, look, last week the Patriots beat the Bills. This week they play another team that might get blown out. But, you're looking for an edge with matchups. You're looking for anomalies, teams that maybe should have won some games. If you look at the box scores, but they lost because of turnovers, things that aren't going to happen again the following week. Guys coming back, injuries obviously are huge. So you're inputting or exporting guys coming back to the field. And you always look at the metrics, the analytics, but everybody has that. Everyone has all the numbers. So like I said, styles make fights and matchups make these NFL games. And, we put in probably NFL season, 14 hours a day, looking at everything, reading every article to see if maybe the flu's going around in a certain locker room or, this guy's more banged up than he appears to be, or, who's playing, who's not playing. You're just trying to find an edge, whatever it is, the smallest edge, especially in games that are like, a pick 'em or 1 or 2 or lane 3. Those games are coin flips, and the smallest edge could make you some money in those matchups.
A team that's been surprising and well coached, and you see a lot of youth on it, is Houston. Carolina's getting ready to sell the farm. So do you lean towards Houston in this ball game because of what – I mean, get this. Carolina's got Brian Burns on the market, and he could potentially be moved by Tuesday. And the reason they're doing that is because they moved up to get Bryce Young at 1, and for them to do that, they gave up draft assets to do that. So they're going to try to acquire as many as they possibly can. For the second year in a row, they're going to be looking for 2 1s for Brian Burns. Do you lean Houston here?
it's hard to invest in this Panthers team. I mean, they lost 5 of their 6 games by 8 points or more. So I know they played the Saints pretty tough. I think they lost that game 20-17. But other than that, I mean, Bryce Young's having a real bad season compared to the other rookie quarterbacks. I mean, he's thrown for like 960 yards, which he got 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year. I think he's been sacked 16 times. So the offensive line hasn't helped him out at all either. 0-6 straight up, 0-5-1 against the spread. You haven't made one penny betting on this team this season. But something's funny about this line. It's only 3. I mean, I think the whole world's going to be taking the Texans, and that kind of scares me a little bit. I'm going to wait closer to game time before I bet this game. But at -3, I think it's a short line. This line should have been at least 4.5 against a team that hasn't won a game all season and hasn't really competed in these games. So, if anything, I might be leaning. I don't know. I'm going to wait to game time to bet it. But man, it just seems too easy. Anytime something seems too easy, Vegas don't give out gifts. They're not giving out free money. So
hey, those castles on the strip aren't built because they lose.
No.
Every time someone goes like this, wow, man, I won a lot. I go, yeah, well, let me tell you this, Hoss. They get you 3 weeks from now. That's how they get you. You think you won? They'll sprinkle a little. I lived in Vegas, and you know where I won all my money? You're gonna be shocked where my wife and I won our money. The majority of the time when we won at the Piggly Wigglies. We won a few times in the casinos, but in the Piggly Wigglies and the 7-Elevens, you can't get a chair in those places because we were told this, get this, that the slot machines are set at a certain percentage. And in the 7-Elevens, they're set at like 68% where you lose your money. But in the casinos, it's set at like 65. Right. So you got a better chance of winning in the Piggly Wigglies and in the Rouse and in them joints when you go in there and win. And it's true. I've won more money. My wife did this one day. She went to like a Piggly Wiggly or some shit to get dinner. She came back. She had like peanut butter and jelly. And I said, "Where's dinner?" She goes, "This is it." I go, "What?" Sometimes sometimes in Vegas, you get the shells. Sometimes you get the egg.
Yeah, true. That's true. You got to be careful. Yeah.
Cleveland at Seattle. This looks like a good one.
It's tough playing in Seattle. I mean, that noise level is so high. So any inefficiencies you have on your offensive line, you can't mask them on the road, especially in a place like that. The line's been moving towards Seattle. Opened up 2. It's up to 3.5. You got some banged up bodies in Cleveland. It's a bad spot for the Browns here. I don't like the number. It's moving up to 4 in some spots. If I could have laid 2.5 on Seattle, I would have taken that. But where the current number's at, it's a no play for me because Cleveland still has, probably the best defense in the NFL.
By the way, I think that's a game that Philly loses. Seattle.
It's a tough game. I mean, if they win this week and a banged up San Francisco team loses the Bengals, well, here come the Seahawks. You could have gotten plus 300 to win the NFC West. And a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how the 49ers might be one of the best teams we've ever seen. And all of a sudden, they look mediocre. They might be 5-3 by the end of this week. I mean, they're right on their tails. Seahawks are right on their tails.
Kansas City at Denver, Mr. Pfizer versus Mr. Sierra. You got Mr. Pfizer in the game, who's having a really good year, by the way. And then Mr. Sierra, I don't know how they're going to handle Mr. Sierra in Denver, especially with Sean Payton. You got to turn this thing around. Is this a blowout? It's in Denver, tough place to play.
Yeah, they got a great home field advantage up there. Well, last time they played, Kansas City was laying, 10.5, 11 at home. And now the line, to me, is kind of high. It opened up. It was at 8.5. I took some +8 on Denver. Kansas City's been outperforming the market. They're scary to bet against. But I think Denver covers the spread. I can't see them winning the game, but I think they stay within the number. 7.5. If you can find a 7.5 in the market, they're out there. I think Denver's going to hang around here, man.
Who would have thought you gave Sean Payton $20 million just to cover the spread?
Sorry, I'm happy with it.
Hey, holy cow. Hey, I didn't win the game, but we covered all year. Shit, man. You probably keep your job in the NFL today. Baltimore at Arizona. Boy, this Ravens team is good.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he's playing MVP football.
Yeah, we talked about that before the season started. I mean, we were giving out those overs and unders, and I was going overs on all his numbers. Now they're starting to get healthy. Now you're starting to see how good this Ravens team can really be. They're dangerous. Line opened up 7.5. It's up to 9.5. Game will probably close 10 on the road, which is a lot of points, especially on that Arizona field that always seems kind of slippery when you play on it. The problem with taking Arizona here is one mistake, one turnover, and you're not covering the spread. That's the issue with this team. If you could tease Baltimore down to like 2.5 and a 7-point teaser, time in with some of the better teams, maybe like, the Eagles or Kansas City. I think that's the move here. But at 10, it's a no play for me. But if you could put them in a teaser, I would put Baltimore in a teaser, time in their teaser legs.
Do you think San Francisco loses 3 in a row and they got Darnold? What is it? They got Darnold Duck. Sam Darnold is your quarterback in this game. I mean, look, I think he won last year with 3 quarterbacks. So I think anybody who's going to sleep on the fact that they can't prepare him to win a football game, Cincinnati, they can't run the ball. They just don't look the same like last year. And I got to think it's Burrow's being, careful on his calf or Achilles, whatever it is. I mean, San Francisco pulls this out, right? It's at home.
I mean, they're laying 4 points. It's tough because you got no Purdy, you got no Debo, and Trent Williams might not play. So if Williams doesn't play, Darnold might start seeing ghosts again. I mean, try and protect him. The kid's a little gun shy, I think they win the game. I don't know if they cover the spread. That's they're banged up, and the Bengals are hungry. They're trying to stay paced with the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns. This is a big game for Cincinnati here.
They got to stay in the race in the AFC.
Yeah, this is huge for them. While San Francisco still has a little bit of a cushion, and they're really banged up. I mean, this is a very banged up, wounded San Francisco 49ers team. If I had to bet it, I'd probably take the Bengals +4.
This Charger team, I can't figure it out. I mean, it's got to be that shitty coach.
He's horrible.
And it's the Bears. And, I mean, the Bears are going nowhere. But, I mean, this Charger team is look at all the talent they have on both sides of the ball. And the quarterback is having a good year. But they just don't win. And you got a coach. Did you hear what they did at halftime? Last week's game, the coaches go like this. I think they played Kansas City. And last week, the coaches go like this. Man, you can't play zone coverage against Mahomes. You just can't. And there was a debate. And Brandon Staley goes, we're going to play zone. And all of a sudden, they got lit up for 3 TDs in the first half. They went back in, came out. They started playing man. They kind of got back in the ball game a little bit against them. This guy here, man, I mean, the Spanoses don't like the fire guys, but this dude is just completely in over his skis here with this team. And I think Jim Harbaugh is the next head football coach of the Chargers.
He could be. I mean, I think Staley's acid. We call guys like that acid or mush, or he's just – I don't think he's fit to be an NFL coach. Some of the decisions he's made at some crucial moments, some of the game plans he's come up with, he's got more talent than arguably 95% of the team.
Absolutely.
I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? This week they're playing, a crappy Bears team. They're laying, what's the line? 8.5, 9. It's a lot of points, but they are at home. I think the Chargers bounce back. I think they cover this. I think they win by double digits here. The Bears are just so bad. I don't think the Bears can score with them. And, you make a mistake against the Chiefs or one of the better teams in the NFL, they're going to burn you. You make a mistake against the Bears, they'll come back with 2 more mistakes for you. So I like the Chargers here.
I gotta figure out who this Detroit team is on Monday. Raiders, not a bad defense. They roll into Motown. Are you still on the Lions bandwagon?
Yeah. I mean, it happens to everybody. Cowboys got blown out by the 49ers. Miami got blown out by the Bills.
Eagles lose to the Jets.
Eagles lost. I mean, it happens. You know what I mean? So this is one of the better teams. They play in one of the weaker divisions in the NFC. They're still the team to beat there. It's a lot of points, though. Let's be honest. 8 points. I don't know if they should be laying 8 points at home against a Vegas team that's been gritty this season. Man, I wouldn't lay it. I probably, you know what? I would probably put Baltimore and Detroit in a teaser.
Let me get a couple college games from you. FSU dropped one to Virginia last week. They take on Wake Forest, who's had a pretty good record and a pretty good run the last couple of years. How do you look at FSU and Wake?
It's a lot of points. We're talking about 21 points.
Yep.
That's a big number.
I would take the Wake in the 21.
Yeah.
At home?
Yeah. I like the 21 points with Wake Forest there. It's just a big number. It's just too much. I like Wake Forest.
How about Oregon, Utah? That's a pretty off the conversation game, but that's a huge game that could have playoff implications here for teams to make it out of the Pac-12. Oregon, Utah. This is a good football game. I like how I like all the things that they do up there, man. I mean, Oregon has a good-looking football team. They dropped a tough one to Washington, but how do you see this thing?
I think Oregon's got the best defense Utah's faced all season.
Oh, yeah.
Their offense is better. They're a better overall team. And like you said, I mean, Oregon, that was a big loss against Washington, a game they should have won. Lines up to 6, I think, 6.5. I kind of like Oregon here. I mean, the whole world's going to be betting Utah, I think. As of right now, 70% of the tickets, the bet spreads are on Utah. But, you know, majority of the money comes in on game day. But I like Oregon here -6. I think they cover the spread.
FSU, you're right. It's still undefeated there. Colorado at UCLA and the old chipster. The old Chip Kelly. And UCLA, I'll tell you one thing about that Dion story. Ever since they lost to Stanford, that thing's lost some steam on it. Yeah. I mean, I don't see the same buzz around that team right now since they dropped that. I mean, dude, when you got killed by Oregon, there was still a lot of steam because you had the Southern Cal game the next, and they played very well against Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Then you turn around and they lost a 21-point lead. I think it was 28-point lead against Stanford and got beat. And Colorado goes to the Rose Bowl. I mean, how do you like this game?
14 points. I mean, it's a lot of points. UCLA's laying 14. I think it's 14.5. It's up to 15 in some spots. Oh, man. The world's going to bet Colorado. They bet them each and every week. It's not a game I'm looking to bet. If it gets below 14, maybe 13.5, I might look to nibble on UCLA a little bit. But I'm not looking to bet this game. It's a tough game to bet.
These guys call you the Cowboy Godfather, man.
I gave up the Eagles last week. What are they talking about?
I know, man. You can't satisfy these guys, man. Some of these guys are just, as a good old-fashioned Italian would say back in the day, known as my grandfather, just stunnads. It's, you can't do anything. It's stupid. It's stunnads. There's just nothing else.
I had him last year at 30-1 to win the Super Bowl before the season started. This is all about my allegiance is to my bankroll. It's not to these teams. They don't pay my rent. They don't pay the college tuition. They don't pay the insurances. I got to make money or else I don't eat, man. I'm not, I love the Eagles. I was born and raised in Philly, and if I ain't got money on a game and the Eagles are playing, I'm rooting for them. But if I'm on the Cowboys this year to win the NFC East and to win the Super Bowl, I'm cheering them in. I'm cheering them in. And everything's going as planned. Nothing's changed. Everything's on course, so I'm happy.
So you're kind of like Sonny and like Bronx Tale, where you look at the kid and you go, you're upset Mickey Mantle? Mickey Mantle gives a shit about your father or anything? Ask Mickey Mantle if your father can't pay the rent. You tell me what he thinks about Mickey Mantle. What is this kid? You look at it. I never liked Mickey Mantle ever again.
That's all it is. It's a business, man. It's the business we've chosen. And this is what we do. And we're trying to make some money for everybody. And if you go throughout the shows at the beginning of the season, we've made some people some money. So we won a little bit more than we lost, and that's what it's all about.
Mark it down. Eagles lose in Seattle.
We'll see. We'll see. They had a big pickup this week, so
they did. And they could land Henry too by next Tuesday. Hey, do you do any of that kind of like a prop bet where you think Henry can land?
I mean, the only way I'm betting that is if I got some people whispering in my ear, So if I get some information, I'll bet it. But, I'm not, you can't handicap that. It's all about information.
Well, there's a guy in Dallas that I know that told me, that the Cowboys, are kind of wanting to be a little bit more physical. And the guy's been on the program numerous times, and it just happens to be, part owner of the team. And, I don't know. They're telling, hey, they're in line. Here, it's Ravens, Dolphins, Cowboys. The Eagles' names have been brought up. You could see potentially Cleveland because of the loss of Chubb.
That's big if he goes to Cleveland. Wow. With that defense? Wow.
Yep. Yeah, tell the folks how they can find you, my friend.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Philly Godfather. You can stop by thephillygodfather.com. And we got that show on Sirius XM channel 159. It's on JAKIB Sports, Sports Grid, the sports betting show every Thursday night. So definitely check it out.
Thank you, my friend. I'll see you next Friday.
You
Happy betting. That's my boy right there, Philly Godfather, the legend himself. Hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.